Yes. Perfect. Yes. 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 I got a little too. We only needed.
that she has her brothers in town from California came in yesterday, and they have a big dinner tonight, and maybe she'll join us afterwards. I don't know. She's iffy.
Hope so. Good to
I
see
think the reason is because we probably will be earlier than they will.
you. Gotcha. Okay.
But
Well, I hope we
so
get
how's
to see
business
her.
standing with you?
Good. And I hate that I missed when you came through because that was such a quick.
Yeah, I guess I can start. We got a couple of people missing. Yeah. I guess we can start.
Okay. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our meeting. As Chair of the Endowment Management Committee of the University of Houston System Board of Regents, I would now like to call this committee meeting to order. There are 3 items listed on your agenda today. Number 1, action item for the committee consideration. 1 action item for the committee and the board's consideration, and 1 information item only. After each item has been presented, I will ask the committee if there are any questions and call for the vote. If circumstances are warranted, I will call for a vote to place any items on the board's consent docket agenda for the final board approval. We have 2 representatives from our investment firm NEPC, Mr. Sam Pollock, partner, and Ryan Walter, senior consultant, who are attending our meeting today. Welcome everyone to our meeting. I would like to introduce our first item requiring committee approval, the minutes of the Endowment Management Committee held on December 2nd, 2021 and May 15. I think this is 2021, maybe erroneous.
I move the motion.
Yeah. And May 15, 2024. Does anyone have any corrections to these minutes? If not,
Motion to approve. Second.
thank you, thank you.
Sorry, got
Sir.
it.
All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, none. The minutes from the December 2021 and May 15, 2024 Endowment Management Committee meetings are hereby approved. First agenda item to be presented today is item C, a report from NEPC regarding the University of Houston System Endowment and non-endowed portfolio. Mr. Raymond Bartlett, Senior Vice Chancellor of the Administration and Finance, will you please introduce this item?
Yes, sir. I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Pollock and Mr. Walter to talk about the endowment and non-endowed portfolios. So with that, please, Mr. Pollock.
Thank you, Mr. Bartlett. Good afternoon. Great to be with everyone. We're, as planned, going to provide an update on investment performance and then move to some specific recommendations for improvements to the portfolio, which we're excited about. With regard to performance, as you noted in the materials, looking at the one-year return, the endowment for the past year as of June 30 was up 9.5%. And as you scan down the information in that box in the bottom left, you'll see that most parts of the portfolio are doing well. The one that stands out to us and that we think needs improvement for obvious reasons is public equity. It's a good problem to have that it was up 16%, but the equivalent index was up 19, and we want better and are not satisfied with that. Having said that, other parts of the portfolio, namely private equity, bonds and cash, private debt, which is relatively newer to the portfolio, all of these areas have seen really strong performance in both absolute and relative terms. The one-year return, as you see on the page, I mentioned right in line with the benchmark. What we've noted, and you can see here on this page, is that as well, And by the way, just a quick refresher, that dynamic benchmark is an apples-to-apples comparison of an equivalent investment profile, meaning that's a roll-up of indexes. If your portfolio is 60% S&P, that index is 60% the S&P 500, and so forth. And as it changes, adjusts to reflect what the UH endowment portfolio has. What you see is in line for the one-year period, meaning managers neither detracted from nor added to the aggregate results, trailing over the 3-year period, which I'll come back to in a second, and outperforming materially over the 5 and 10-year period. So we're excited to see that. The 3-year period, there are a number of factors, some of them having to do with individual manager performance, and let's be clear, underperformance. And we are going to be talking about that in our specific recommendations. And it's also affected, it's hard to believe, as has transpired since then, that's also affected by 2022. That 3-year period includes 2022, which, just a refresher for those of us that have already forgotten, we saw the S&P down 20% and the bond market down 20%. So the vast majority of the investment landscape in that period. And that's why you see a 3-year return somewhat anomalous of 4% annualized, which does not get the job done long term. Now that's a function of markets, and happily you see the 1-year, 5-year, and 10-year numbers comfortably where they need to be to support the university for the long term and showing outperformance. We will be coming back, as I mentioned, to specific managers, but I'll offer some commentary along the way. Before doing so, I want to spend a minute on the relative performance to this group of colleges and universities. As we always do, you'll note that over the 3-year and 5-year periods, there's, generally speaking, either in line with the mean of this group of 15 schools or outperforming. For the 3-year period, as of March 31, the endowment had returned 6% plus annualized, and the average return for this peer set was 5.5%. That we like to see. Obviously, the 1-year return is more in line, 1.17 versus 1.39%. A big factor in all of these time periods is, of course, continues to be the aggregate amount of public equity exposure. And even within this peer group of universities, you see a massive difference in how much private equity, how much public equity. And so even though these are peers from a size standpoint, they're all doing very different things in terms of how they deploy their assets and how much risk they are taking. And what we want to see, of course, happy to see it here, is that the university endowment for UH system over longer periods of time has outperformed the midpoint of this peer group. Now, what we would like to see is even better, top quartile and so forth, but we're seeing some positive signs, and we also want to make some changes today to continue pushing in that direction. Specifically with respect to managers and elements of the portfolio that are working, not working, and importantly doing as we expect versus in some ways a surprise. If you look at U.S. equity representing about 18% of the portfolio, this is the number one area that's going to be having our attention as we roll forward. That 3-year outcome is just totally unacceptable. It's been a turbulent period, but to have a 1.3% return compared to, call it 8% for that Russell 3000 index, is to our thinking unacceptable, and we want better. Now you can see that we've made some changes, culled along the way, in some cases quite sharply. For example, at the beginning of that period, the Columbia Focused Large Cap Growth investment was a much larger portion of the portfolio. That manager's been in the mix, and we'll be talking about today, since May of 2010. But over that 3-year period, when growth investments and tech names have done very well, they returned 2.4% annualized versus 11 for the equivalent index. No surprise and not stealing any thunder, but you saw our subsequent recommendation for change in that regard. We did cut pretty significantly from that position, In hindsight, I think we should have cut entirely. So some positive that it wasn't more pain, but that's one, I think, and a lesson learned for us. All great managers, studies show, have short-term periods of underperformance, all of them. And we were hoping for a bounce back there, but as you see, there's kind of no period in the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10-year period or beyond where there's outperformance to their benchmark. And they are ultimately being paid to deliver in that regard, and we've not seen it. On the flip side, because I think it's important to, be level and even-handed about that, point out that other elements that have been introduced to the portfolio have been tremendously to the benefit of the university. We've talked about this, but you'll notice global equity on this page here. We introduced global equity, and the thesis was that skilled managers that have the ability to build best ideas portfolios, regardless of whether the company is based in the U.S. or somewhere else, but their best ideas, that's a great part of the market to pursue outperformance. And that has paid out in spades. To be clear, the two managers, Arrow Street and now Jennison, a little typo there, it is Jennison, not Jensen, we'll fix that for the next meeting, but you can see since April of 22, which incorporates some of that downturn, those managers have returned 13% annualized, whereas the index, depending on which one you're looking at, about 7.4%. So that's nearly double the performance of the index. Now, we don't think the university would be well served to put 100% of your public equity, because there's some risk associated with that. But as a meaningful portion, this is a very positive introduction to the portfolio. Then on the decidedly less exciting part of the ledger, of course, fixed income. And you can see over that 3-year period, positive outcome for your fixed income while the bond market is down negative 3% annualized. And that comes from a variety of sources, but navigating a very turbulent interest rate environment, introducing short duration with Lord Abbott, which also benefited the non-endowed pool quite significantly, as we'll come to in a minute, introducing high yield, and actually, in this case, keeping a manager that had some turnover. Smith Graham, a local firm which sold to Loop Capital, was retained in the portfolio, and again, their performance has really improved over that period. So again, we're talking about the decidedly less sexy and interesting part of the portfolio, but one that's fundamentally important for defense as well. Beyond that, again, the hedge fund portion, we don't spend a lot of time there, but some outperformance there. And interestingly enough, we're going to be recommending changes here as well to optimize that part of the portfolio and also to bring it down, manage cost for the university. So that's going to be a part of our discussion today. I'm going to pivot to the non-endowed funds performance to make sure we cover that. Before doing so, just make sure there are any questions or areas you'd like us to speak to on the endowed performance as well. Okay. The non-endowed portfolio, you may recall, consists of a cash pool and a so-called liquidity pool. The cash pool you should think of as cash and money market type investments, and quite recently that's done well. As you know, cash no longer burning a hole in our pockets, earning closer to 5%. And the liquidity pool consists of an array of bond fund managers that pursue some higher returns. Over the 5-year period, now earned a whopping 2.1%. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but on a relatively large pool of cash-like assets that fund the ongoing operations of the university system, every incremental pickup of a basis point, 10 basis points, et cetera, means real money for benefit of the university. So what we'll see here, as you see the cash pool, even in the past year, that money market type exposure up about 5.3%. While the other side of the ledger, the liquidity pool up 5.6%. And that comes from having skilled managers and introducing other parts of the equation. We've talked with this group about pursuing incremental return, but we recognize that the primary goal of this portfolio is don't set the money on fire. And so with that in mind, without bearing material incremental risk and sticking all the money under a mattress, there's been a real win in terms of the aggregate performance over the past year. So even with an adverse environment for fixed income, we've seen almost up and down the line there outperformance from the managers, including new ones that have been introduced to the mix. I mentioned earlier Lord Abbott, their short duration credit in the past year up 6.6%. So nearly the top performer in this mix. Bottom line, again, not to spend too much time on it, is that the non-endowed assets have been invested prudently. They're still protecting, but they're also generating incremental return to support the university and the system. Very excited about that. I'll see if there are any questions, and then Mr. Bartlett, perhaps I'll turn it back to you to introduce the action items for today.
If there are no questions, Regent Agrawal, this would complete item C.
Thank you, Mr. Bartlett. This item was presented for information only and requires no action by the committee. This next item listed on the agenda today is item D. Approval is requested to make a full redemption of a public equity manager and 2 hedge fund managers to delegate authority to the chancellor to negotiate and execute contracts for the hiring of the 2 new hedge fund managers for the University of Houston System Endowment Fund. Mr. Bartlett, will you please introduce this item?
Yes, sir. There are a series of recommended action items that Mr. Pollack will discuss with the committee, including the redemption from 2 hedge funds, the liquidation of an existing equity manager, and the hiring of a new hedge fund. And so with that, let me turn it over to Mr. Pollack and Mr. Walter for further discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Bartlett. Good afternoon, everyone. My boss here, Mr. Pollack, has bestowed upon me the responsibility of talking about hedge funds with the Board of Regents, acknowledging that those are very polarizing investments. But we are excited about the opportunities that we have identified to further strengthen the portfolio. I will get into our recommendations specifically here. If you're following along, we do have one investment recommendation going into a new investment, and we also have 3 termination notices. So again, we're looking to constantly scour the investment universe for attractive opportunities to help drive the university's long-term growth. So the first recommendation, and this is a hedge fund, it's known as a global multi-strategy hedge fund, affectionately known as a multi-strat in our industry.
Macro.
What did I say?
Multi-strat.
Multi-strat. Yeah, thank you.
Macro.
Macro, global macro. Broadreach will invest across different sectors and geographies designed to perform well in all different market environments. Broadreach will access different asset classes, different markets that aren't already represented in the portfolio. Strong management team with 25 years experience and a very impressive track record, which you'll see at the bottom of this page here. So out to the 5-year annualizing 13.2%, you'll see there. This is a $20 million recommendation for investment. You can see some further information on a 2-page tear sheet you'll see here. You may think that typical fees are 2 and 20. This one has a lower investment management fee. Most of our clients are in the B share class, which is 1%, and we are fine with incentivizing them to perform and paying them for performance when they do perform. So there is a slightly higher performance incentive fee of 22.5%. What I do want to mention, maybe should have started with this, is that the portfolio's allocation to hedge funds right now is about 6.5%. Our target allocation is 5%. So we are looking actually at redeeming 2 hedge funds, but adding this Broadreach hedge fund. What does that accomplish? We think we're hiring a better manager. We will have lower fees with this manager. The liquidity also is a major portion of it as well. So taking 6.5% down to 5% also manages the portfolio's liquidity as well. Hedge funds are not super liquid. Generally, they're quarterly or annual liquidity. So we are managing the portfolio's liquidity there and bringing hedge funds down back to the target 5% allocation. So Broadreach is our recommended add to the portfolio. Mr. Bartlett, should we go over all recommendations or approve? Okay, all.
Yes, please.
You'll see a track record on Broadreach here as well. In order to get back down to the 5% target hedge fund allocation, we are recommending the full redemption of both HBK Offshore as well as Davidson Kempner. Those two strategies, along with Broadreach, are both global macro funds. They often are invested in credit markets. We do think there's a little bit more upside with Broadreach, so we are recommending swapping out those two. You'll see they're both around a $20 million position. We will not get all of that $20 million at once. We will be paid out quarterly. We will receive all of Davidson Kempner's in January. HBK will stretch out over a couple quarters. So we'd like to get that started. And then as Mr. Bartlett alluded to and Mr. Pollack alluded to, Columbia focused large cap growth. This is back in the US public equity sphere. Large cap growth has been a generally good area of the market. Unfortunately, Columbia has not kept pace with their index over all trailing time periods. So we're looking to recommend a full redemption of that. There's about 29 million as of June. We're probably around that level right now. And again, that's been a position that has been as high as 6% in the portfolio. So we've been cutting that back about to the tune of about 60% so far. So this will be the final stage, recommending a full redemption from Columbia.
So just to summarize, these specific recommendations are all about doing more with what you have. It's not about dialing up the risk in aggregate. It's not about taking on greater aggregate risk, although individually, I suppose Broadreach may be more volatile than some of those hedge fund managers. If you're going to pay up, you should get something for it. And so when Mr. Walter says we think can be a little bit better, let's be quite clear that, as an example, in the past 3 years, Broadreach has earned clients 14.5% annualized. And the two hedge funds that we're recommending to part ways with, roughly 3.5 to 6.5 range. This is a slightly different risk profile. If you're going to pay up for it and bear the risk, we think the university should be compensated for it. And we have conviction that this is a significant positive change for the endowment portfolio.
If there are no questions, this would complete item D.
Thank you. Are there any further questions, additional questions? May I hear a motion to approve this item as presented?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second? Thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. This item is hereby approved by the committee. No further board action is required. The last item listed on the agenda today is item E. Approval is requested for partial liquidation of a quasi-endowment University of Houston system. Mr. Bartlett, would you please introduce this item?
Yes, sir. We are seeking approval to partially liquidate up to $10 million from the University of Houston Core Pool Quasi-Endowment to fund a loan to the University of Houston Athletics Department. The loan will be repaid over an 11-year period. The loan supports a $10 million operating loss in our athletics department for fiscal year 2024. The funds will come from institutional funds which are invested in the endowment as part of this quasi-endowment that's been referenced. The $10 million is not coming from donor funds. This was a strategic decision that we made to provide financial support to our athletics department during its transition into the Big 12 Conference. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bartlett. If there are no questions, may I hear a motion to approve this item as presented?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. This item is hereby approved by the committee. This concludes the presentation and approval of our agenda items today. May I hear a motion to place the one action item unanimously approved by the committee on the Board of Regents consent docket agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. May I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none. This item is hereby unanimously approved by the committee and will be placed on Board of Regents consent docket agenda for the final board approval at the board meeting held tomorrow, August 22, 2024. If there are no questions, this concludes all the items that are listed on the agenda for action. I would now like to move to the next section listed on your agenda, Section 2, the executive session. It should be noted that an executive session will not be held today. Does anyone have further questions or comments? If not, there being no further business to conduct before the committee, this meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Pay what they charge. Now it's audit.
Oh. First. Lily says.
Good. Very good. Everybody else moving. Hell, do we have a quorum still in here? I guess we do, don't we? All right, I'm gonna crank it up. I heard this. Missing our. He'll be here. You here today? Come on. Have a good press conference. All right. I guess we can kick this thing up. I think
good. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our meeting. In the absence of Chairman King, as Vice Chair of this committee, I'd like to call the Audit and Compliance Committee meeting of the University of Houston System Board of Regents to order. We have 5 agenda items that will be presented before the committee today. 1 action item requiring committee approval, 1 action item requiring committee and board approval, and 3 items are being presented for information only. The only item requiring committee approval are the minutes from the Audit and Compliance Committee meeting held on May 15th, 2024. Does anyone have any corrections to these meetings? Do I hear a motion to approve these minutes as distributed? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes from the May 15, 2024 Audit and Compliance Committee meeting are hereby approved. The first action item listed on your agenda today for presentation is item C, a report on the University of Houston System Institutional Compliance Hotline Report for the 3 months ended July 31st, 2024, and Audit and Compliance Initiative. Mr. Sergio Leal, Chief Compliance Officer, will you please present your report?
Thank you, Regent McCall. Good afternoon. Today I'm presenting the Institutional Compliance Report, which details the hotline reports received during the 3-month period ending July 31st, as well as our annual compliance initiative. This first slide shows a breakdown of the fraud and non-compliance hotline reports received for each institution during the months of May, June, and July 2024. On the following slide, the primary issue associated with each hotline report across all system universities is detailed. As you can see, the primary issues identified in the hotline reports during this 3-month period covered a broad range of areas. The categories receiving the most hotline reports related to employee relations, unethical conduct, and violation of laws. There were 60 hotline reports in total, with 24 received for U of H, 32 received for UH Downtown, 1 received for UH Clear Lake, and 3 received for UH Victoria during this period. This represented an increase in the number of reports received during the previous period, which was 45. The following several slides detail the issues reported for each of the universities, and I'll quickly scroll through these. Here's U of H. Here's for Clear Lake. Here's U of H Downtown. And UH Victoria. As part of this report, I would also like to address our annual compliance initiative for the upcoming fiscal year. We intend to focus on healthcare compliance as various federal and state laws require the implementation of safeguards for the privacy and security of health information and to prevent healthcare fraud and abuse. To comply with the scope of requirements under these regulations, we are instituting a collaborative effort involving the Office of Compliance and Ethics, the Office of the General Counsel, and IT security. We will be focusing on implementing processes, policies, and protocols as a part of an overall healthcare compliance program that promotes the security and privacy of health information while mitigating the risk of fraud and abuse. Additionally, we will be working with a consultant with expertise in billing controls and procedures to assist us with the development and implementation of elements of the program. This slide details some of the specifics that will be addressed in the upcoming year regarding healthcare compliance, including implementation of new policies and procedures. Some of the work is already underway, and other aspects will be undertaken during the upcoming year. For example, we have conducted meetings with clinics and healthcare providers at UH Victoria, UH Clear Lake, UH Downtown, and Main Campus to discuss their healthcare compliance processes and data retention practices to align and streamline practices system-wide and to identify any potential gaps and enhancement opportunities. We will take these findings to develop mitigation plans and to assure alignment across our system. We expect to be able to meet healthcare compliance requirements in a timely manner. That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Leal. This item was presented for information only and no committee action is required. The next item listed today is item D, state required report, employee reporting of incidents of sexual harassment, sexual assault, dating violence, and stalking. Ms. Rebecca Lake, Associate Vice Chancellor, Equal Opportunity Services, will you please give your report?
Thank you. I appreciate your time today. I am the designated Title IX coordinator for the system as well as for the University of Houston campus. This report is presented once per year. Under Texas state law, specifically the Texas Education Code, all employees who work in higher education in the state of Texas are required to report to their Equal Opportunity Services or Title IX offices if they learn that a student or another employee has experienced sexual harassment, dating violence, stalking, or sexual assault. And that can be an incident that took place on or off campus, so long as the person was a student or employee at the time of the incident. And so this report summarizes not the entirety of the work of equal opportunity coordinators and Title IX coordinators in our system, but simply the number of reports that are generated from our employees throughout the system to ensure that we are tracking and maintaining a record that those reports are happening as they're required by law. And so as you proceed through the report, you're going to see summaries for each of our institutions. So the first, of course, is the University of Houston system itself. And then you're going to see the University of Houston campus, which, of course, being the largest campus, drives a lot of our reporting numbers across the system. This is actually a slight increase from last year. If you were present last year's report, we had 467 cases that were coming in across the system. Across the University of Houston. And so with this report, you'll note that the numbers are consolidated. So if we receive 2, 5, 10 reports about the same incident, we're only going to count that one time in this report. You're also going to see for each page resolutions of how the report was closed out. And so you're going to see that many of our reports that come in involve unidentified or unaffiliated respondents. So the respondent is the person in the report who is alleged as responsible for the behavior. Even though many of our cases involve individuals who are not from the University of Houston system, we still provide services on those cases. So if employees or students need safety planning, housing changes, academic support, we are still going out and providing those services, even if they experienced an incident that happened off campus, or even if they experienced an incident that did not involve anyone else from the University of Houston. We want to restore them as best we're able to the position they were in before the incident occurred and allow them to continue on successfully in their professional and in their academic journeys. You will also see reports for the University of Houston Clear Lake, the University of Houston Downtown, as well as the University of Houston Victoria. I'm very lucky to be able to work with many talented individuals on these teams. We have a depth of experience for individuals coming from social work backgrounds, from legal backgrounds, from victim services backgrounds, working at hotlines in the past that are specifically dedicated to domestic violence cases and concerns of that nature. And these processes, these services would not be possible without strong leaders as well. And so we have Lori Ruiz at the University of Houston Downtown, David Britton at the University of Houston Clear Lake, and Brandon Lee at the University of Houston Victoria, who each lead their campuses, maintain training efforts, and respond to these reports as they are generated. And so I owe my gratitude to each of those individuals. They have a depth of experience, each of them in higher education specifically, in student affairs, employee concerns, and kind of the array of concerns that are brought into this office are well served by their expertise. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the services that we provide, the manner that we go about resolving these concerns, and restoring individuals on each of our campuses. So please, Donna.
Could you just explain to the board a little bit more, because this is just a small piece of what the Title IX offices do on each campus. So this is a very narrow piece of what they do. They cover a lot of things under Title VII. They'll cover other things under Title IX that are not included in this state law report. So I just want you to be aware, it's not that these numbers are so high, and we look for patterns all the time. We meet weekly to discuss the potential for patterns, among other things, but just if you could give them a little flavor of some of the other things.
Sure. So This report, like I mentioned, only reflects those matters that employees are required to report. So if sexual harassment, misconduct that I mentioned comes to an employee's attention, they are required to bring it to our office. But there are all natures of other concerns that could be considered discrimination based on race, national origin, religion, disability, LGBTQ status, so on and so forth. And so these protected categories and concerns for discrimination are also brought to our office. However, I would say that the sexual misconduct reports that we work on, some of which are represented here, but not all, those are the majority of our caseload, but still that discrimination caseload also represents a significant number as well. I'm happy I ran some numbers just in case there were questions on that today, so I'm happy to share more about that if you want specifics. We also handle pregnancy services out of Title IX offices. And so if students or employees need adjustments in the classroom or in the workplace in order to perform well during and after their pregnancy, we also provide those services as well. And then each of the individual campuses varies on additional services that they provide. For instance, at the UH campus, we also provide ADA accommodations for employees with disabilities through our office. So in summary, this is a significant amount of work and concerns, but this is actually good that we are seeing these numbers, this caseload maintaining and even increasing, because what we don't want to see happen is individuals experiencing these concerns and not feeling safe to come forward and seek help. We don't want them to have to be dealing with these types of incidents in isolation, and we certainly don't want employees to receive the information and then fail to report it. So we actually want to see these numbers maintained because it shows that our students and our employees are trusting others in the university system to get help in those critical types of situations, and then the employees who receive the information are doing their part to report it and connect them with services.
Thank you. Regent Raven, did you have a comment or?
I had a question, but.
Okay. Okay, good. If there's no other questions, thank you, Ms. Lake. This item was presented for information only, and no committee action is required.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Next on our agenda for approval is item E, a report of University of Houston Audit and Compliance Committee Planner. Mr. Hurd, Chief Audit Executive, would you please introduce this report?
Thank you. This is simply the annual review of the Audit and Compliance Committee Planner. There are no recommended changes at this time. Are there any questions?
Okay, we will need approval for this, so do I have a motion to approve this? Okay. This item is hereby approved by the committee. No further board action is required. The next item, agenda address, will be item F, report on University of Houston system and internal audit reports. Mr. Hurd, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you. These items will begin on page 29 of your materials. There are 6 reports that are presented at this meeting for your review. The first is the what we call the JAMP audit, Joint Admission Medical Program. This is an annual audit that we must do. Last year, we were asked to look at the JAMP audit that was given to the Tillman Fertitta Family College of Medicine. We did look at that audit. We found that there were serious issues in the reconciliation of it. We found that the cost center wasn't created until after the grant had ended, and so we were unable to reconcile it fully. This amounted to some challenges as we got to the reporting stage. The total amount of the 2 grants that we looked at was $150,000. What they actually spent was $130,000, but there were a number of changes throughout that, cost moving around, so we were unable to verify if all of those costs were accurate to that grant. Now, we have worked with management. They've identified, we jointly have identified several issues, and management has corrected a number of those things, most importantly, the process of creating the cost center. Are there questions?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Hurd. This item was presented for information only, and no committee action is required. The next item listed on your agenda today is item G, a report on the University of Houston System Annual Internal Audit Plan. Mr. Hurd, will you please present this item?
Thank you. I would like to touch on two other of the audit reports before we move on. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any questions on that one. There were two other reports that I believe would be of interest to the board. One of them was the Business Schools Foundation. We audited that, found that there was some challenges with segregation of duties as well as some other accounting controls. We made a series of recommendations. Management has accepted all of those recommendations and has begun implementing them. The third, and I think probably what will be of most interest to the board, and I would ask you to turn to page 64 in your materials. This is compliance with Texas Education Code 513525. You may know it more as the Texas Education Code that applies to the new Senate Bill 17 DEI law that went into effect. We were asked to look at this at the system and each individual university level. We went through thousands of web pages of documentation, thousands of printed pages of documentation. We received attestations from core leaders across all of the different campuses. We reviewed hiring packets, all to see if we were in compliance with the law. We found a few minor things that Counselor Cornell's office was instrumental in getting fixed before this report at this board meeting. So it is my pleasure to tell you that I believe, based on the evidence that we've reviewed, we are in compliance with Texas Education Code 513525. Are there any questions? All right.
Okay, may I hear a motion to approve this item as presented? Second? All in favor? Opposed? This item is hereby approved by the committee. This concludes the presentations and approval of our agenda items today.
Oh, we still have to do the
Wait.
audit plan. We still have to do the audit plan. That last item was really just for information. He was
Oh.
reporting on and so now he'll have to present his audit plan. It won't
Okay,
take
I thought
long.
we were missing something here.
We just went a little too fast.
Well, I wanted to pause in between the reports where we had issues in case there were questions, and
Again, I was rolling.
Yeah,
you were.
I was rolling.
Yep,
You were on
all
it.
good.
That's okay, because the chairman usually prompts me to go a little faster. You just had that in mind, and you were moving through it. As far as the audit plan goes, I would direct you to page 74 of your material. The lower portion, the upper portion are the audits that we still have ongoing left over from this year. You'll recognize most of them. I've talked about them before. Those on the second portion with the green headers, those represent what we're proposing for next year. Now, over half of those audits are mandatory by state of Texas law. A couple that I would like to point out, if you will look, I believe it's fourth row from the bottom, you'll see that there is an information technology risk assessment. Part of my office's focus has been to get skills in each of the areas that we lack them in. Information systems was one of them. We have hired a information systems professional to begin looking at that. So in accordance with Texas Administration Code 202, we will be performing a risk assessment this year. So that is new for us. In addition, you will see that there is an inventory of protected health information on there. Those hours are set aside to help in the compliance initiative and to ensure that we are in compliance with that. So we will be working with Mr. Leal's office to ensure that. So those are two of the big things that I wanted to point out. Are there any questions on the audit plan? All right. Well, before we end, I always take this time of year to say thank you to my excellent team. Most of them could not be here today, but I would like to recognize Brandy O'Neill. Would you Stand up, Brandy. She is my director of auditing and my right-hand person. She has helped me on every assessment, as well as moving forward to some of the AI initiatives that my office has. And certainly to all the others who were not able to be here today, I say thank you. So that's all I have. We can wrap it up now.
That's all on Item G. Be sure this time.
I'm 100% sure.
All right. Thank you. At this point in time, we need to have a motion to approve this item as presented. Second? All in favor? This item is hereby approved by the committee. This concludes the presentations and approval of our agenda items today. May I hear a motion to place one action item unanimously approved by the committee on the Board of Regents consent docket agenda? Second? All in favor? Opposed? This item has been unanimously approved by the committee and will be placed on the Board of Regents consent docket agenda for final board approval at the board meeting tomorrow, August 22nd, 2024, as follows. 1, report on University of Houston System Annual Internal Audit Plan. If there are no questions, this concludes all the items that are listed on the agenda for action. Is that it, Mr. Hurd?
That is it.
Okay. I would now like to move to the next session listed on your agenda, Section 2, the executive session. Should be noted that an executive session will not be held today. Does anyone have any further questions or comments? There being no further business to come before this committee, this meeting is hereby adjourned.
All righty.
Are we ready to move right into the next committee? What? No, thank you very much. I'm very happy I'm doing it. And I'll get started. She told us about it downtown.
Here it comes. You know what? We're gonna start having kids.
I'd love it if you do that for me. Thank you. Provost, are you ready? Provost Chase, are you ready?
I don't think
Am I on? Hello? Can you hear me? Let's see.
he's got to talk in his headset so he can turn me on.
Ah. I need him. Hello? Is it? Hello? Okay, there we go. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our meeting. As chair of the Academic Research and Student Success Committee meeting, I would now like to call the Academic Research and Student Success Committee meeting at the University of Houston System Board of Regents to order. As a quick reminder, please speak clearly when presenting or making remarks, as your comments can be recorded correctly. We have 10 items that will be presented today before the committee, 5 action items for the committees and boards' consideration, and 5 items for information only. Following the presentation of various action items, I will ask the committee if there are any questions and call for a vote. Once all action items have been presented and approved, if appropriate, I will make a motion to place these items on the board's consent docket agenda for final board approval. I would now like to introduce our first item requiring committee approval, the minutes from the Academic, Research, and Student Success Committee held on May the 15th, 2024. Does anyone have any correction to these minutes? Do I hear a motion to approve these minutes as distributed?
So move.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes for the May 15, 2024 Academic Research and Student Success Committee meeting are hereby approved. The first agenda item for the committee's consideration and approval today is item C, approval of faculty promotion and tenure in academic rank, University of Houston System. Dr. Diane Chase, Senior Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, will you please present this item?
We have today several faculty who we brought to our various universities in the system who already had tenure at their previous institutions. They have gone through the same process that faculty would go through if they had been here from the start of their academic careers, but in a foreshortened kind of a process. So today we are asking for your approval for tenure for one faculty member from UHCL, Professor Jennifer Urban, professor with tenure in Department of Physical and Applied Sciences and the College of Science and Engineering. She has an excellent career. She comes to us immediately past from Texas State. In addition to that, we have three faculty from the University of Houston, Professor Hanan Hamad, professor with tenure in the Department of History, College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. He comes to us from TCU. Professor Beth Murfish, associate professor with tenure in the School of Art, College of Arts, who comes to UH from UH Clear Lake. And Professor Ariani Saja, associate professor with tenure, who comes to us to the Department of Biomedical Sciences in the College of Engineering, who comes to us from the University of Memphis. Again, these are all individuals who come to us with tenure from their previous institutions and gone through the expedited process here. So we're seeking your approval.
Does anyone have any questions? If not, do I hear a motion to approve this item as presented?
So move.
All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, this item is hereby approved. The next item listed on your agenda item today is item D, approval of faculty emeritus appointments, University of Houston System. Dr. Chase, will you please present this item?
Thank you. We are seeking approval of emeritus appointments from faculty who've made significant commitments and accomplishments at the University of Houston during their careers. All are really storied individuals who have been a tremendous benefit to the university. The first is Professor Rose Lang from the Catherine G. McGovern College of the Arts. Professor Lang is an ethnomusicologist, a scholar who studies musical traditions that lie outside the Western classical canon. Lang was appointed to the Moore School of Faculty in the 1990s. This individual, this Professor Rose Lang, is a master teacher focused on student success. She's a scholar whose work has really been interdisciplinary. She's published books and a number of articles that have been exceedingly influential. At the time of her retirement, she has been noted as being the foremost scholar in the world of the social life of Central Europe. In addition, we have Professor James Johnson, also from the Catherine G. McGovern College of the Arts. Jim Johnson spent 23 years on the University of Houston faculty and has been a really successful researcher and practitioner. He is an expert in voice technique, specifically in the reproduction of regional accents. His work has gained him international stature, particularly on his accent help publications. He's an active teacher in the area of voice production, accents, and dialects, and has been designated as an artistic consultant for voice and dialect in over 100 professional productions of opera and straight theater alike. He remains a leader in Voice and Speech Trainers Association, and continues as a senior-level artistic associate for the Prague Shakespeare Festival. In addition, we have Associate Professor Richard Bond from the College of Pharmacy. Dr. Bond received his bachelor's degree in 1983 and then his PhD in pharmacology in 1988 at the University of Houston's College of Pharmacy. He was a postdoctoral fellow at Baylor College of Medicine. He's been recognized in much of his research, including a review article on the history of pharmacology noted that he was one of the 50 major figures in the history of pharmacology. He has published articles that have been cited hundreds of times, and he's received a variety of university-level awards. He's been, in addition to this, the ombudsperson for the University Faculty of Staff since 2018. Professor Leonard Trombetta from the Cullen College of Engineering has been a member of electrical and computer engineering faculty since 1986. He's taught and developed courses on all levels of the curriculum and earned a number of teaching awards. His research is on semiconductor device physics and reliability. He is well published and has given presentations on his work at a variety of conferences. He has been instrumental also in accreditation work in the department and in the college, and has taken the lead in developing and maintaining an undergraduate electronics lab. Following retirement, Dr. Trombetta plans to continue teaching on a part-time basis. Another faculty member is Professor Stephen Pei from the Cullen College of Engineering. He was recruited to join UCF as the Associate Director of the Space Vacuum Epitaxy Center, a NASA Space Commercialization Center. In 2008, his team successfully synthesized and transferred large area graphene thin films from metal substrates to other substrates. His 2008 paper has been cited over 1,800 times. In 2015, he founded the Southwest Public Safety Technology Center. His team developed and patented seeded growth technique to synthesize individual single crystalline graphene grains at predetermined locations. He's published over 220 papers, which have been cited over 9,700 times. He continues to have a leadership and advisory role in a number of key and local companies. And finally, we have Dr. Stephen J. Spann from the Tillman J. Fertitta Family College of Medicine. Dr. Spann is a family physician leader, educator, and researcher, the founding dean of the Tillman J. Fertitta Family College of Medicine, and vice president for medical affairs at the University of Houston. He has dedicated his career to improving healthcare around the world by training future healthcare professionals. He's a member of the Commission on Public Health and Scientific Affairs, the Task Force on Clinical Policies, and member and chair of the American Academy of Physicians Commission on Clinical Policies and Research, and his task force to enhance family practice research. He has chaired a number of really key commissions. In addition to that, he served as consultant to a variety of medical schools, residency programs, ministries of health, and healthcare delivery systems, not only in the U.S., but in various countries in the world. He completed his, he was a graduate of Baylor University and Baylor College of Medicine, completed his residency training at family medicine at Duke University Medical Center, and also has an MBA from UT Dallas. And of course, really proud to have had him as our inaugural dean in the College of Medicine. And that is it for the emeritus recommendations.
Those are some impressive resumes. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? If not, may I hear a motion to approve this item as presented? Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This item is hereby approved. The next item listed on your agenda today is item E, approval of faculty workload report, University of Houston System. Dr. Chase?
This is a mandatory report that we submit to the state every year following the similar format. It is utilized by each university. The variations in the report, it lists every single faculty member that is employed in each of our institutions in the system. It indicates their effort in each of the 3 areas that faculty are normally expected to perform in. Those would be teaching, research, and service. The variations are based on the faculty member's employment type and their actual assignment, and they're also based to a certain degree on the differences in the institutional missions. They are pretty long reports, as you've probably seen, with a lot of data inside them. In addition to sending these off to the state, they are also important in terms of submissions to the federal government for the amount of faculty time that's spent on research in particular. And I seek your approval of the reports.
Does anyone have any questions about this report? If not, may I hear a motion to approve as presented? Thank you. Second. All in favor? Opposed? This item is hereby approved. The next item on your agenda today is item F, approval of the new academic programs, University of Houston System. Dr. Chase, will you please present this item?
The University of Houston Clear Lake is requesting approval to establish a Bachelor of Science in Aerospace Engineering. The proposed degree is a 4-year program with 128 semester credit hours. The program will provide students with skills and experiences related to the design and sustained functioning of aircraft and spacecraft. This is an area of really great interest to us in the Houston area. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reports a faster than average job growth for aerospace engineers of 6%. Texas is actually the 2nd largest, and the Houston metropolitan area is the 8th largest employer among metropolitan areas. According to the Texas Workforce Commission, the 10-year outlook for aerospace engineers is an 18.5% increase in projected employment between now and 2030, which well exceeds the national projections. There are only 4 other bachelor's programs in the nearby area or in Texas institutions, and none of them are within 100 miles of the Houston Spaceport, JSC, or the numerous aerospace companies nearby. So we seek your approval.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions regarding? If not, may I hear? Did we have a question?
No.
Do we have any questions? If not, can I hear a motion to approve this item as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This item is hereby approved. The next item listed on your agenda today is item G, ratification of the Vice President of Health Affairs and University Dean, Tillman J. Fertitta, Family College of Medicine, University of Houston. Dr. Chase, will you present this item?
We are seeking ratification of Dr. Jonathan McCullers as Vice President of Health Affairs and Dean of the Tillman J. Fertitta Family College of Medicine beginning September 1st. Dr. McCullers joins us from the University of Tennessee Health Science Center College of Medicine, where he served as Senior Executive Associate Dean of Clinical Affairs and Chief Operating Officer since 2019. Currently, he also served as Le Bonheur Children's Hospital Chair of Pediatrics since 2012. His degree is from the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and he is not only a skilled administrator, but also an accomplished and highly regarded physician scientist with NIH funding, a variety of well-cited publications. In addition to that, he's won more than 24 prestigious awards, including Leadership Memphis Change Award and the Memphis Martin Luther King Jr. Luminary Award, and very many others. And we're really excited about having him join us today. He would have been here today, but he is moving, and actually the moving van is at his house right now.
Right now?
Right now, right now, right now. So we'll have to save the physical introductions until another day.
Well, we certainly look forward to that. Does anyone have any questions? May I hear a motion to approve the item as presented?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This item is hereby approved. The next item on your agenda today is item H, Introduction of University Dean, College of Science and Engineering, University of Houston, Clear Lake.
I'm
Dr.
going to
Chase?
ask Provost Maynard to introduce Dean Irwin. Why don't you guys come on up? Microphone.
We're very excited at the University of Houston Clear Lake to welcome our new Dean of the College of Science and Engineering. Dr. Jennifer Irvin comes to us from Texas State University. So I'll just ask her to briefly greet the group.
Hi there. I am very happy to be joining UHCL to run the College of Science and Engineering. We have all kinds of opportunity for innovation and promoting student success, so I'm really looking forward to leading the college in doing great things.
We're glad to have
We're
you.
glad to
on the
have
team.
you, yes. Agenda today is item I, Introduction of University Dean, Cullen College of Engineering, University of Houston. Dr. Chase, will you introduce this item?
I am excited to announce, not to show in person, Dr. Pradeep Sharma as the new dean of the Cullen College of Engineering. Dr. Sharma joined the college's faculty in 2004 and has served as the chair of the Department of Mechanical Engineering for 12 years. He served as interim dean for a period of time, about 6 months. Did an amazing job during his time as interim dean. He does groundbreaking research. He's a member of the National Academy of Engineering. He received the National Academy of Sciences, Cozzarelli Prize, Guggenheim Award, Daniel C. Druckle Medal from the American Society of Medical Engineers, among others. He's an editor-in-chief of the flagship journal of his society, the Journal of Applied Mechanics. He was chair of one of the largest departments in terms of students in the university. There are over 1,000 students in mechanical engineering. And Dean Sharma is not here today because he's teaching one of the introductory classes in engineering. One of the things that we really believe in strongly at the University of Houston and all of our system institutions is in student success. In order to better showcase how important student success is in the College of Engineering, he chose to teach this particular course, which is one of the ones that students often have a tremendous amount of trouble with. So he is teaching that course as we speak today. We will need to save his personal introduction to you face-to-face for another time. That's it. Thank you.
Speaks well of him to choose the introductory course.
I wonder how Durga did in that class.
Yeah, I know. Durga, how did you do in that class? The next excuse me, this item is presented for information only and no committee action is required. The next item on your agenda today is item J, presentation on research security, University of Houston system. Dr. Claudia Newhouser, Vice President, Vice Chancellor for Research, will you please present this item?
Thank you. So about a year ago, you approved a Board of Regents policy on research security, and I thought it might be a good idea to update you on where we are, what we have done. I hope this works. Yes. So let me start with explaining how important international collaborations are in the US and also for the University of Houston. What I'm presenting here, the number of US science and engineering publications broken out by those that are only with domestic institutions, those are the blue bars, and in orange are the ones with international institutions between 2011 and 2022. So what you can see is there's an increase in the number of publications, but you can also see that the blue bars have not increased, whereas the growth is pretty much entirely out of the international collaboration. So that illustrates how important international collaborations are for our research enterprise. And we need to continue that, and if I looked at the data just for the University of Houston over the last 5 years, between 2018 and 2022, we had about 43% of our publications are with international partners, and China is our most frequent collaborator. 19% of our publications are with Chinese institutions. So that's an enormously important part of our research portfolio. And so we need to emphasize also that we really value those collaborations. The next slide explains the type of research we do. So universities are primarily engaged in fundamental research, and so to define that, there's actually a very official definition of fundamental research. It's basic and applied research in science and engineering that is typically published, shared broadly, so that's the open stuff we do. And so I give you a graph here. The blue bars are basic research, orange applied research, and green is experimental development. So we do very little in the last categories. Almost all the research that is done in the US in higher education is in basic and applied research and counts as fundamental research. So there are no publication restrictions, there's no export control or citizenship requirements. Occasionally there are restrictions that apply to that, but that's a very small percentage. And that's only for national security reasons. So if there is research that's critical to defense, an agency can say, no, we're going to restrict that, and then it's no longer fundamental research. But almost all of the research that's done in higher education in the US is fundamental research and openly shared across borders. What has happened since 2018 that the government has tightened the rules for international collaborations. This started in 2018 when the funding agencies sent out letters to research universities to remind them that there are foreign disclosure requirements. These requirements have been around for much longer, but people have sort of gotten a little bit sloppy about this. In 2018, government reminded everybody you really have to disclose all your foreign collaborations, and they started to investigate researchers. You see repeatedly Jason mentioned here. So Jason, that's a group of scientists. There are somewhere between 30 and 60 scientists. They help the federal government in analyzing all sorts of things. So half of their reports are classified. So I have no idea what's in there. The other half are not. There were quite a few since 2019. They dealt with research security. It started out in 2019 with a study on fundamental research, which explained what it is and that we really value the fundamental research and that we need to continue to have open research. It's a bidirectional collaboration. We benefit from researchers in other countries. They benefit from the research here. There are lots of exchanges, visitors going both ways. And so the 2019 report really emphasized the importance of fundamental research and that we need to continue this. But they also need to disclose when we have conflicts of interest or international collaborations. In 2021 and 2022, there was the NSPM 33, so that's National Security Presidential Memorandum 33, so that is really well known in the research community. The first one was the report, and the second one were the guidelines, and the guidelines emphasize what needs to get done. Clarifying the disclosure requirements, and agencies were really asked to standardize across the agencies. It would be really hard for researchers to have different requirements for different agencies. Every time they apply, they have to remember, here I have to disclose this, here I have to disclose that. They also put in some consequences for violations of disclosure requirements that typically, as long as it is disclosed as before the government finds out, you're fine. But if the government finds out before you disclose it, you may be in trouble. They also ask for digital persistent identifiers, and I'll say a little bit more about this later, about information sharing. And that information sharing is agencies, universities, governments, so that we really know what's going on. So it's not a good idea to have policies where universities told, you have to do this because we say so. So we really asked the federal government to move towards really explaining why they implement certain policies. And then finally, a research security program. In 2022, the CHIPS and Science Act asked the National Science Foundation to take the lead in establishing a research security program, actually developing one that universities and other research agencies can use. And in 2023, you should remember this, there was a Texas law about establishing a policy framework for research security, which actually then triggered the policy that you approved a year ago. And it has also asked for having a research security officer in each university. There were two more JSON studies, one on research security, which asked where the National Science Foundation actually asked for that report. They asked for all three. They wanted to make sure that we define the difference between research integrity and research security. Research integrity programs have been around for a really long time in universities. Research security, we're a little bit newer to this one. That report also emphasized that there's an opportunity for the social sciences to really help universities to figure out how to establish programs that are actually effective, because a lot of it is human behavior. The 2024 study on safeguarding the research enterprise focused on military applications, but also emphasized the importance for keeping our research open and bidirectional so we can really benefit from the talents that are around the world. Going to the research security program, these guidelines were released just July 9th, 2024 by the White House. And they addressed what kinds of components a research security program has to have. So cybersecurity, foreign travel security, research security training, and export control training. The timeline is spread out. The agencies need to complete their work by January 2025 or July. That's sort of a gap. So somewhere between January and July, they have to complete that. And then universities have 18 months to implement those requirements. And this applies to covered institutions. We are one of them. We have more than $50 million per year in federal funding. Then your covered institution applies to you. What have we done since then? This is really a joint effort. So there are multiple units involved. These are the three that are really core. There are many others that are also involved. With the three of us, we meet actually quite regularly. So in the Division of Research, there's a research security officer, that's actually me. In the Office of General Counsel, I had an export control officer. In the UH system, IT security. They're in the process of hiring an IT security analyst. And at this point, we meet regularly every other week, talk about this, make sure we implement what's required. There are various components to this. We have a website and our Division of Research website. Since you can't read the little buttons, but if you click on a button, another web page opens up and covers the topics of research security training, export controls, international research and travel, conflict of interest, data protection, a malign foreign talent recruitment program, and various resources, including ORCID, which that's the digital persistent identifier that I mentioned earlier. That's a collaboration with the Office of the Provost. They're interested in it for other reasons. On the research side, we're interested in because it's a requirement everybody will have to have an ORCID who applies for federal funding. We also list the various UH policies that are relevant, and then the NSMP 33 so people can read about that. What we have implemented so far is export control screening. So we have actually a very robust international travel review. So any researcher or anybody from the University of Houston employee who travels abroad has to complete this form. Just to give you a sense of the volume, over the 6-month period between February and August, we received 965 forms. Most of them go to countries where there are no concerns. But about a quarter of them, they were to countries where there is concern, where there is a review required, and where the export control officer goes through the form and makes sure that it is okay to travel. At times, she meets with the faculty member, and when it gets more complicated, and we actually both meet with a faculty member and explain why there may be concerns and how to mitigate that. We're also doing visitor screening, especially J1 visitors who come, so those are researchers who come from other countries, want to spend some time at the University of Houston. We have a new policy that's currently under review for malign foreign talent recruitment program. That's a requirement from federal agencies that faculty who apply for, or researchers who apply for federal grants cannot be members of malign foreign talent recruitment programs. So we have a program where they need to certify that they are not a member of such a program when they apply for federal funding. We're also working on research conflict of interest to have, to add questions so we can ascertain whether faculty have international collaborations. And then we're implementing the guidance that's in the NSPM 33, with disclosure requirements, digital persistent identifiers, and we have a research security program. We also have a system-wide global risk task force that really involves all the units. We meet quarterly to discuss the various issues and make sure that everybody's informed. That has a rotating member from one of the three campuses. Right now it's UHD that's represented. And that's a group where we have quite lively discussions about how to implement things. And finally, we communicate a lot. A lot of research security is already being aware of and making sure that our researchers understand what is allowed and what is not allowed. So I meet regularly with the Dean's Council. Provost invites me to this. I have a monthly meeting with the Associate Deans for Research. We meet with the Research and Scholarship Committee. And in all these committees, every time there's something new on research security, it's a rapidly evolving area. We have a monthly research forum for our researchers where we talk about research security and many other issues. And we also have a research administration forum. So there may be the same topic, but to two different audiences to make clear what each audience really has to do. We have a weekly newsletter. The important parts are on top so everybody can see that. So if there's a new policy, we can announce that. And then we do workshops. So we had a workshop before the summer started on international travel where the export control officer and our IT security people came and explained to our researchers what they have to do. This was our best attended workshop. We had over 200 people registered, over 100 participated. We record those. We had many people then afterwards going through the slides. This sounds like a lot of administrative burden, but it's not all. There's also a research component to this, and that's my last slide. So the National Science Foundation was asked to develop a program on research and research security. And so Rice was the PI in a grant, and the University of Houston and the other organizations were part of this. We developed a workshop where we invited people to really develop the research agenda. We wrote a white paper that is currently under review, so it's not public yet, but it reflects many of the things that you can find also in adjacent reports. So there's quite a bit of interest in making this rigorous, so we're not just looking at anecdotes and then having a new policy based on one case, but really looking at the data and trying to figure out how can you keep our research secure while maintaining our international collaborations. That's for information.
Well, that is certainly very complicated and impressive and expensive. I mean, does the money to do this come, are we able to get any of it out of the research grants? This is something that we have to support and fund in order to qualify and maintain our eligibility for these grants. And it's a complicated personnel structure.
It works really well. We work very well together, so it is a collaboration. It's
Well,
not
I'm glad
one-
you included the last slide that said research into research. Research
Yeah.
into what it is to maintain security on research.
Yeah, so there's a research component to this, and we look forward to seeing what the NSF puts out so we can apply for some research grants on research security.
It's going to get more complicated as we do more direct College of Medicine gets involved in research and our research numbers increase. It's just going to get more and more complicated every year.
Impressive. Thank you very much for that
Is this a
presentation.
high-class problem, Renee?
I think this is a first world problem. That's right. Gee, that was just almost overwhelming. Thank you very much for that presentation. This item was presented for information only. Does anyone else have questions? I think you stumped the whole group. It's great. Next item listed on our agenda today is item K, update on energy and innovation, University of Houston System. Dr. Ramanand Krishnamurti. Nice to see you.
Thank you so
today.
much, Dean.
Yes,
Regent.
thank you.
I'm going to
What?
hand this out as a professor would. I'm going to try and keep this as short as I possibly can. So thank you so much, Regent Madison. I want to give you an update in two parts. The first part is going to be about our Office of Technology Transfer and Innovation, and the second part is going to be about UH Energy. And that magazine there will tell you a lot about that, and that's a big thanks to Lisa Holdeman's group to really put that together and really launch that, that magazine. With regards to technology transfer and innovation, it's been a bumper year for us this year. Our faculty have led, faculty and student investigators have led 87 invention disclosures. In a normal year, last 10-year average, we have about 65 invention disclosures. This year is 87. President Couture had asked me for an update. It was 86 2 weeks ago. Yesterday when I went and checked again, it was 87. We'll probably get to 90 by the time this fiscal year is over. Of those disclosures, we have filed for 67 provisional patents, and we have been the recipient of 39 United States and worldwide patents. That 39 number would put us in the top 100 universities across the world in terms of the number of patents that would be issued to a university system. So it's a tremendous part that our faculty have worked on and really done a great job. We currently have almost 50 licensed patents. And this current year, we received a net licensing income of about $7 million. Note that based on Board of Regents policy, about 40% of that licensing revenue, net licensing revenue, goes back to the inventors. So it goes back to the faculty and students who do it. 20% go back to the academic units, and 40% stays centrally. We are advancing our entrepreneurship and startup activity. Our incubators and technology bridge are full and have a significant wait list associated with them right now. We've been working across the Houston ecosystem to promote biomanufacturing, and we submitted a substantial proposal to the National Science Foundation for what they call as the ENGINE program that will advance technology and innovation in biomanufacturing in the greater Houston region. We partnered with about 30 different organizations here and submitted an early stage proposal there. We hope to really advance to the next stage. So that gives you an idea about where we are with technology transfer and innovation. Let me switch gears to energy. You've got that magazine that tells you a lot more. I want to particularly focus on our partnerships with the energy industry. We have been working with the energy industry for the last 15, 16 years since President Couture has been here. It's been a real pillar for the university. And our goal is very straightforward. How do we grow energy at scale, which is the reason that magazine is called Energy at Scale, to make energy affordable, reliable, and sustainable for all? That's been our goal. That's been where we're driving it. We created an institute called the Energy Transition Institute, and recently got additional funding through a very generous gift from the Cullen Foundation to help us accelerate the progress of that institute. It's a 2-year grant that the Cullen Foundation gave us, and it's really to accelerate progress because the need is now and to really deliver for the city of Houston. We've also been in partnership with several large Department of Energy industrial decarbonization projects, including Calpine's $250 million Baytown carbon capture and sequestration project, Ørsted's $100 million e-methanol project that's going to happen in the ship channel, and H2Circ's $50 million fuel cell recycling project. UH Energy is involved in all of these projects. You'll see additional projects in that magazine that tell you about what the activities that we're doing in hydrogen. And it's really been a tremendous opportunity to grow the efforts of the university and take us from that basic science and research and development that Claudia talked about to that next phase. How do we start to see the deployment of these at scale within the Houston ecosystem? So I want to thank you for your patience and giving me a chance to give you an update on what we're doing in innovation and energy, and we'll be happy to take questions if you've got any.
Damanan, is it true that now we have the trademark as the Energy University?
Yes, indeed, and that's thanks to Lisa and her office. We are now called the Energy University with a trademark sign that and we can rub it into UT Austin, which is really upset with us because we grabbed that trademark, and every time we call ourselves the the Energy University, there's always a snide remark coming from my colleagues at UT, which is great to see.
But we do work with UT and
Yes, we do. We
A&M and
absolutely do.
Rice and everybody because we believe in collaboration and partnership. That's
It's
our
collaboration. It's always collaboration, but it's always friendly competition too. So. Thank you all.
Thank you for the publication. Good job. This item was presented for information only, and no committee action is required. The final item listed on your agenda today is item L, Success Story, University of Houston System. Dr. Chase, will you please introduce this item?
Thank you. One of the things I love to share with you are stories about our students, or stories about students across the system. As you probably know, I'm an archaeologist by training, and so I love finding out about people, cultures, communities, and exploring the university in any way I can. One of the ways that I do get to know our students better is through something that we've created that's called Provost Profiles. It is produced by University Marketing and Communication. So, thanks to VP Holdeman for, all her efforts in that space and a good team that's part of it. The goal here is really to give me an opportunity to find out about some of our Cougs, what they're doing, what their successes are. And there are currently 6 of these episodes. They're very short. They're like 3 minutes, 4 minutes max. What they're doing, what they're interested in, what they're all about. And it helps me learn about campus, and it's also helped folks understand a little bit more about our Coug stories. So if you haven't seen Provost Profiles, we're going to give you a very short snippet of some segments of them, and then we have 2 live students to come up and talk to you in a few minutes. So if we could get that to run first. It's a lot of fun. There are a lot of things you have to do as provost that aren't fun. This is fun. Joseph, Brianna, welcome to Provost Profiles. Welcome to Provost Profiles. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to having this conversation.
I think that looking to a university that values you as a student is really important. I've always felt that was something that we had here, is that the students' voices are heard. And I know that if I walked into the faculty offices here, anyone that's here, their door is going to be open. They're willing to talk to me. They're wanting to talk to me. They want to hear what students are thinking about their program. And a place that's student first and has big goals, like the top 50 commitment that UH has, right now it's a great university, and we're looking for the next step. And I think that's something that's exciting, to be able to kind of be in that hustle culture that UH has going.
Both of my parents have attended this school. And not just that, a lot of my extended family as well. So aunts, uncles, and cousins. The community that I grew up around were all alumni from University of Houston. So U of H has always been a big focal point in my family. So when it came time to apply for college, and I also looked into the different opportunities that U of H offers its students, not only through organizations like Bonner and Hitch, where I can provide service and also give back to my community. But I think one of the biggest reasons was the opportunity for things like this to be able to elevate my story in this community.
Involvement around campus has paid its dividends for me, as not only allowed me to feel like I belong at the University of Houston, but has created a community in terms of support, other staff and faculty, that now I walk around the hall and they recognize me, or we just happen to go grab coffee at Career Grounds. I've also given up some of my time to mentor, give back, because I find those experiences as rewarding as being the mentee or being the one learning and exploring all these opportunities.
When I took a tour of Valenti, I actually went to the building. I just fell in love with it. I knew that public relations was for me, and also Valenti, the School of Communication specifically, was for me. My parents both went here. My mom and my dad both met at the library.
Ooh.
They also had on-campus
Or is that what
jobs.
they tell you they met at the library?
No, I gotta check up on that. One thing led to another, and they actually got married right here at A.D. Bruce. So
wow.
I was born to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So there are some amazing students. I encourage you to take a look at them. We have another one that should be coming out shortly, but right now I'd like to introduce you to two of them. So both Rosemary Lay and Valeria Gonzalez have been featured on Provost Profiles. They are here today to share how they discovered UH and the opportunities the university is providing to them. Rosemary is a biomedical sciences major in UH's College of Natural Sciences and Mathematics and an aspiring physician scientist. Before she shares her story, I'll mention that she grew up very close to another major Texas university that shall go nameless, but she selected UH as her institution of choice. So Rosemary, if you would come first and come to the podium and tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Rosemary Lay. And when I first came to UH in 2021, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. It was medicine or bust. And so over these past 3 years, I've learned that while I was not on the wrong path, I was not exactly on the right path either. And so part of my college journey has been research, and I first started that at UH through here, which is the Houston Early Research Experience. And so over the course of 2 weeks, I got a crash course in research. Fortunately, I did not crash and burn, and I was able to learn fundamental skills such as developing a research question or going through jargon in an academic article. And then shortly afterwards, I made my way over to the Department of Neurosurgery at Houston Methodist to do summer research on strokes. And so I think I got a pretty good 2-for-1 deal because I was able to work on 2 projects over the course of 10 weeks. And through pipetting, through getting overly familiar with mice, I was able to let out my inner mad scientist. And so over these past 2 experiences, I was able to not only gain the know-how and technical skills to succeed, I was also able to develop research as a passion and able to firmly place it at the center of what I want to do next. And so the summer after that, I fortunately was able to escape the heat and humidity here and flee to Switzerland for my next research internship. And so every day I took the super fast and super on-time trains to EPFL Campus Biotech in Geneva. And in Geneva, I did research on bodily self-consciousness. And through that, I was able to expand my computational skills as well as my flexibility as a researcher. Of course, I took ample advantage of my stay in Switzerland. I learned about the beauties and also the pains of hiking as an unathletic person myself. I was able to pratiquer mon français, and I was also able to meet people from all around the world, from Mongolia, Singapore, Poland, Italy, etc. Something that I already do at UH, actually. And then after that, I returned back to Houston Methodist to continue my research. Now, at UH, I've done a lot more than just research, and those experiences have shaped me as well. And so I've been volunteering regularly through the organization Honors in Community Health, and through that, I've been exposed to the issues of healthcare access and treatment access. And so all of this has culminated into my return to UH for the Ferris Fellowship, where I was able to combine both of my research and volunteering experiences. And so my path forward has not really been very straightforward or very linear, but I think I'm pretty confident now that I'm on the right path. And so I have a new mission going forward. So I hope to not only do medicine, but also research. I hope to become a physician scientist in the field of neuroimmunology, developing both innovative as well as accessible treatments. Treatments that not only account for adverse side effects, but also adverse societal effects. Thank you.
Rosemary, thank you for being here, and just stay put because folks may have questions for you later, okay? I'd now like to introduce Valeria Gonzalez. Valeria is already an alumna, as she's just graduated with her bachelor's degree in history, and now is pursuing a doctorate in the same discipline. I really enjoyed meeting with her because we both share a passion for exploring the past, and she's very passionate about researching and documenting the history of her hometown, Houston. So Valeria, please share your story.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Valeria Gonzalez. I'm a first-generation college student who graduated from UH this spring, as Trevor said. Now I'm a BA to PhD student and a Lydia Mendoza Fellow studying U.S. history. I grew up in Houston, and I went to Langham Creek High School. And after Langham, I earned my associates at Lone Star College with the intention of going to UH for a business degree. However, after taking a history class at Lone Star, I realized I wanted to study history and become a professor to teach untold histories. In the second semester of my junior year, I applied to my first internship, the USLDH Mellon Summer Internship with Arte Publico Press. Arte Publico Press is a Latino publishing house on campus that includes a community archive called Recovering the U.S. Hispanic Literary Heritage and the U.S. Latino Digital Humanities Center. All three entities focus on U.S. Latino history and literature by publishing books, preserving archival collections, and using digital humanities to provide access to Latino history. My training included how to handle, process, and digitize archival materials. And I did this with the Morales Family Funeral Home and Records. This is the work I discussed in my interview with Provost Chase. In looking at records from the Jim Crow era, it was interesting to see everyone listed as white, but the Morales family created this funeral home because Latinas and Latinos and other minorities were not given proper funerals and burials by the quote-unquote white funeral homes. I was inspired to share this fact with anyone who came to see my postgrad undergraduate research day, and surprisingly, a lot of people did not know this was a thing during Jim Crow. I also worked on other digital humanities projects, or DH projects, like sharing stories from 1977, and was a digital research specialist at the Digital Humanities Core Facility. I also worked with the Houston History Magazine and the Summer Internship for Public History and the Digital Humanities, or SIFT. And this actually worked with Ferris over the summer. In the video interview, I spoke about my family in Monterey, and they are the reason I chose to study crypto Jews and conversos. When I first thought about applying to grad school, I was interested in this history because my family is from northern Mexico, and I grew up going to museums and learning about its history from my family. Therefore, when my professor, Dr. Jose Angel Hernandez, who is a Mexicanist, taught me about the Jewish history of Nuevo León, it encouraged me to do research into my own family history. Through food, I was able to suspect my family might be descended from crypto Jews and conversos. From this and Dr. Hernandez's information, my fascination grew. And while it started with a focus on the industry, it turned into interest about the rich but untold history of crypto Jews and conversos in what is now northern Mexico. Now I'm in my first week of graduate school and grateful for all the experiences and mentorship I received from the people in these programs. I learned so much about research and what goes into making archives and digitizing materials like the ones I will be exploring in the future, as well as how to report these findings in a variety of media. Most importantly, I'm grateful to UH for giving me these opportunities to learn professional skills in undergrad and become a stronger candidate for graduate school. Most importantly, I am grateful, sorry about that. Of course, none of this could have been possible without the guidance of my professors and mentors, Dr. Bettinger, Dr. Baez-Aventura, Dr. Clavin, Dr. Fishman, Dr. Garcia Merchant, Dr. Gotro, my advisor, Dr. Goldberg, Dr. Harwell, Dr. Hernandez, Dr. Karen Tamburozanow, Dr. Villarreal, Taylor Davis Van Atta, Michaela Selly, and Shine Tribuco. Thank you to the board for having me and to Provost Chase for inviting me.
Thank you, Valeria. Do any of you have any questions for these two stellar students? Either one?
Rosemary, where are you going to medical school?
So I'm actually in the process of applying right now. I've written so many essays right now, so we'll see where I go next year. So hopefully a place that's affordable. So yeah, we'll see. I'm working really hard on them, and I'm excited for the next step going forward.
Any other questions? These two students were absolutely a delight to interview, as were all of the ones on Provost Profiles. I really appreciate that you were able to join us today, it being the first week of class and very barely into that week. They are a great indication of the students that we have, not only at UH, but in the system overall. And again, a great pleasure for me to have met and spent time with them.
Yes, thank you very much for sharing your stories.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those were marvelous presentations. They inspire all of us for why we're here to begin with, right?
That's why we're here in the first place.
This item was presented for information only, and no committee action is required. This concludes the presentations and approval of our agenda items today. May I hear a motion to place the 5 action items unanimously approved by the committee on the Board of Regents consent docket agenda?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This item has been unanimously approved by the committee and will be placed on the Board of Regents consent docket agenda for final board approval at the board meeting held tomorrow, August 22nd, 2024. If there are no other questions, this concludes all the items that are listed on the agenda for action. Section 2, the Executive Committee is the next item listed on your agenda. It should be noted that an executive session will not be held today. Does anyone have any further questions, comments? If not, there being no further business to come before this committee is hereby adjourned.
Can we take a 5-minute break before we start finance? All right.
Are we gonna need it?
Yeah.
We're gonna need a break?
I don't hear half of what people say. This is transcribing.
Started transcribing.
Welcome to our meeting. I'm Ricky Raven, as Chair of Finance, Facilities, and Administration Committee for the University of Houston System Board of Regents. I would now like to call this committee meeting to order. As a quick reminder, please speak clearly so that your presentations and remarks are recorded accurately. On our agenda today, we have 7 items that were presented today before the committee, 6 items for the committees and board's consideration, and 1 item for information only. After each action item that has been presented, I will ask if anyone has questions and then call for the vote. Once presentations have concluded, I will then seek a motion to place the approved action items, if appropriate, on the board's consent docket agenda for final board approval at the Board of Directors meeting that will be held later today. Isn't that tomorrow? No, it's tomorrow. So it will be held tomorrow. I would now like to introduce our first item requiring committee approval, the minutes from the Finance, Facilities, and Administration Committee meeting held on May 15, 2024. Does anyone have any corrections to these minutes? Do I hear a motion to approve these minutes as distributed? Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Any opposition? The motion passes unanimously. The minutes from the May 15, 2024 Finance, Facilities, and Administration Committee meeting are hereby approved. Item C is our first action item for the committee's consideration. Approval is requested to delegate authority to the Chancellor to negotiate and execute contracts exceeding $1 million for the purchase of goods or services, excluding construction contracts, at the University of Houston System. Mr. Bartlett, please introduce this item.
Certainly. I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Livingston to discuss these items.
Today we have 7 goods and services contracts for board approval. The first contract is for the University of Houston Hilton Hotel, which is a 2-year extension of their existing contract for housekeeping services. The total term of 5 years is expected to cost $1.8 million. The second item is for the University of Houston's College of Engineering for a 6-year extension for their agreement with the Dalian Maritime University for a total of a 14-year term. The extension will allow the joint academic program to continue to recruit new students until 2030. The program generates revenues for the college, about $4.5 million a year, and the total 14-year term revenue expectation is just over $56 million, with related expenses of $41 million. The third contract is for the University of Houston Library for a 5-year contract with Elsevier, who provides academic and research journals and databases with an expected 5-year cost of $14.9 million. The fourth item is the system-wide municipal advisory services agreement. The vendor, Masterson Advisors, assists the system with bond issuances as well as ongoing compliance and reporting. Contract costs in the first 5 years are just under $900,000, and we request approval for the remaining 3 years of the contract, which will bring the total 8-year cost to just over $1.6 million. And fifth, the University of Houston Victoria will bid out its custodial services campus-wide with an expected 5-year cost of $5 million. And the final two items are the annual request for the approval of Houston Public Media's programming fees from the Public Broadcasting Service and National Public Radio. And the annual fees will be $2.5 million for PBS and $1.6 million for NPR in the upcoming year. This concludes the schedule of contracts. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Livingston? May I hear a motion to approve this item as presented? Second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Hearing and seeing no opposition, this item is hereby approved. Item D is our next action item for the committee's consideration. Approval is requested to delegate authority to the Chancellor to negotiate and execute construction contracts exceeding $1 million for projects at the University of Houston system. Mr. Bartlett.
Yes, sir. We have 3 contracts for your consideration and approval today. The first 2 are related to roof repairs at the University of Houston related to storm damage. The first one is to the College of Architecture's roof that was impacted by a windstorm in May of this year. The total estimated cost for replacement and repair is $2 million. We have already submitted our claim with the insurance company with regards to this one. And the second one is the Technology Bridge Building 3 was damaged by Hurricane Beryl, $1.5 million to replace that particular roof. The last one is a $3.5 million contract related to rigging in the Wortham Theater, as well as some structural improvements to the under the ceiling in which this rigging is attached. Any questions on these items?
Any questions for Mr. Bartlett? May I hear a motion to approve this item as presented? Second? All in favor? Any opposition? Hearing and seeing no opposition, this item is hereby approved. The next action item listed on the agenda today is item E. Approval is requested to delegate authority to the Chancellor to negotiate and execute contracts related to the sale of property for the University of Houston system. Mr. Bartlett.
Yes, sir. We are requesting your approval to market and sell a piece of property located on Lake Hamilton in Hot Springs, Arkansas, which is about 55 miles southwest of Little Rock. The property has approximately 50 feet of lakefront access. It is improved with a 918 square foot home built in 1982. This property comes to us through a bequeath of the estate of Hope Elizabeth Holcomb, and we anticipate approximately $277,000 in net proceeds from the sale of the property, which will benefit the UH Women's Athletic Program.
Any questions for Mr. Bartlett? May I hear a motion to approve this item as presented? So moved. Second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Hearing, seeing no opposition, the item is hereby approved. Item F is our next action item for the committee's consideration. Approval is requested to delegate authority to the Chancellor to negotiate and execute contracts related to a real property easement for the University of Houston system. Mr. Bartlett.
Yes, sir. The Texas Department of Transportation is seeking an easement from the University of Houston system with regards to approximately 10.4 acres of land for the construction of an elevated highway as part of the North Houston Highway Improvement Project. The easement will restrict land use by the University of Houston downtown to non-structural purposes due to the elevated highway. Among the, and you can see here on the map, if you can see the 10.4 acres on the top section of the map. If you look at the bottom section, you will see among the improvements that are, or changes that will be made by the North Houston Highway Improvement Project is the reconfiguration or the moving of I-10. And where I-10 is positioned currently, it will actually move to the north, and that where it will be relocated is indicated by those purplish red lines that are running horizontally on the bottom section. And so this easement, if granted, the TxDOT would pay the university $25.2 million. The proceeds from the granting of this easement would be held in reserve for possible land purchases in the future.
Any questions for Mr. Bartlett? May I hear a motion to approve this item as presented? All in favor? Any opposition? Hearing and seeing no opposition, this item is hereby approved. The next item listed on your agenda today is item G. Approval is requested to delegate authority to the Chancellor to negotiate and execute contracts for the design and construction of a new freshman student housing located at the University of Houston. Mr. Bartlett.
Yes, we are requesting approval for a new freshman housing project at the University of Houston. This multi-story housing facility will be approximately 230,000 gross square feet. It will be designed and constructed to accommodate approximately 1,000 beds and will place emphasis on fostering community and providing robust academic support. In addition to the construction of the housing project, we are also considering the relocation of a loop road that would be contemplated as part of an efficiency to the layout of this project due to the way the site is configured currently. The total cost of the project would be $179 million. The actual construction cost of the facility itself would be the 179 minus the $5.5 million, which would be for the loop road, which again we are evaluating whether or not we're going to do that project or not. The funding for this would come from issuance of revenue bonds. The project is anticipated to begin design in the summer of 25. It would be completed. Construction would start immediately thereafter, the summer of 25, and the project would be completed by the summer of 27 for fall move-in.
How many beds?
1,000 beds. And that would bring our total bed count at the University of Houston to right about 9,400.
Any additional questions for Mr. Bartlett?
What's the current utilization of our current housing?
It's about all in, if you exclude Moody for just a moment, we're at about 94, 95%. Moody is about 63% right now. Yeah. And there are reasons for that due to its condition.
That was the high rent district when I was an undergraduate.
Welcome Wilson used to say that when the Dead Sea still had life.
That's right. Any other questions for Mr. Bartlett? May I hear a motion to approve this item as presented? Second. All in favor? Any opposition? Hearing and seeing no opposition, this item is hereby approved. The next item listed on your agenda today is item H. Approval is requested to modify banking and investment resolutions for the University of Houston system. Mr. Bartlett.
And this is a housekeeping item related to personnel changes within our Treasury Department of the system. These updates to these banking resolutions allow us to communicate with our financial institutions who is authorized to conduct business, financial business on behalf of the system.
Any questions for Mr. Bartlett? May I hear a motion to approve this item as presented? Second, all in favor? Any opposition? Hearing and seeing no opposition, this item is presented hereby approved. The last item listed on your agenda today is item I, University of Houston System Capital Projects Presentation. Mr. Bartlett.
Yes, I'll invite David Oliver to the podium to give a presentation on an update on our capital projects, as well as some information about the impact of Hurricane Beryl on our system universities.
Thank you, Raymond. In front of you, you should have the quarterly binder that summarizes all of our capital projects that have been approved by the Board of Regents. So that'll give you an overview of every project that we have currently ongoing. For today, I wanted to touch upon some of our recent starts and completions. We have quite a bit going on. Here you can see just a quick overview of what currently is underway. Here at the University of Houston, we have the RAD Center. We have just completed, that is the satellite replacement project. We have a football development project. We have the SAB2, Sugarland Academic Building 2 project. We have the McElhaney renovation, which is part of our core. We have Agnes Arnold renovations. And then at UH Victoria, we have their Health and Wellness Center. The first project I wanted to highlight is the RAD Center, Retail Auxiliary Dining Center. This project actually is just completed and open for the fall semester. It is a student-centric facility that features 4 new dining concepts. I personally have eaten over there. It's delicious, by the way. It is a unique facility in that it is using mass timber, which is an extraordinarily sustainable construction methodology. It also gives the facility a unique feeling. If you've been in it, it uses a lot of wood. So it does have a warmer and more, I think, pleasing presence if you're in the facility. As you can see here, it sits right on top of where the old satellite facility was. We have filled it in. This is above ground, which I'm excited, considering our propensity for hurricanes, which I'll talk a little bit about here in a moment. So again, it is 100%. It is up and operational, and it is rocking from what I could tell. The next facility is the UH Victoria's Health and Wellness Center. As you can see here, we are out of the ground and working get my order here. We are working to finish out the facility. It is approximately, as you can see, 63% complete, 2-floor facility. Includes gymnasiums, cardio, weight rooms, normal things you see in a rec and wellness center. It does also have spaces in there for a partnership with a local company. So a great facility, and it is moving along very, very well. The Memorial Hermann Football Operations Center. I think I lauded how well this team was doing at our last meeting. I am excited to say that it is indeed on track and on budget and on schedule. We have walked it recently. It is actually ready for the fall season. As you can see here, that big video board is up and running. It actually has our new athletic director's name and picture on it, celebrating his arrival. We have closed up that area and turned it over to athletics, and it will be up and running and going for the fall season. We will, of course, continue to work in the background, in the back side, so to speak, working on the building itself. You can see some of the pictures here. Gives you a sense of where it's located and how it's positioned in relation to the stadium. It indeed will be a part of the stadium. It does include, of course, all the football operations, coach's office, meeting rooms, weight and training spaces, academic and NIL support. It also does include premium seating, the suites. It does also have a party deck, outdoor spaces, and of course the extraordinarily large video board. So happy to report we are on schedule and it will be ready for the fall football season. One of our projects that we have at Katy, Sugarland Academic Building 2 project, it is, as you can see here, 30% complete. It is the second building that we are building out there to support our College of Engineering Technology division. It will complete the movement of that division completely to the Sugarland campus. This building is primarily for classrooms, innovation space, and also includes, as you can see, teaching and research labs. We are out of the ground, foundations in. We're going up as we speak, so project is moving along again on time, on schedule, and looking good. One of our capital renewal projects, core project as we call them, is McLeany. It is one of our, of course, older buildings that had a great deal of what we call deferred maintenance issues in the building. We are currently renovating it. It is, as you can see here, been ripped out to the concrete. We've taken out pretty much everything interior, and now we'll be building it back to accommodate the College of Education as part of our overall move scenarios. We have a large number of these that are happening to accommodate eventually the tear down of Farish, which is their current home. So ultimately, it is looking good. We have quite a bit of work going, and as you can see, we're just really getting going good here with 15% completion at this point. We have a large, major renovation of Agnes Arnold underway. This has been broken into 3 phases. Our first phase was dealing with some what I call the more aesthetic issues to ensure that the facility could be used for its intended purpose and to provide additional security to the facility. We are also have a phase 2, which is dealing with primarily security. For those of you who are familiar with the building, it is a very open concept, which allows a lot of freedom of movement through the building. We are trying to tighten that up, so to speak, and provide more security to restrict movement, especially after hours. That is currently phase 2, and that is where we're at now. We have a phase 3, which will be an extensive renovation of the interior. We will be doing a lot of work within the classrooms and in the office spaces, renovating and bringing them up to current standards. So as you can see here, we are at just really getting out of the ground, going into phase 2 at this point in time. So I did want to speak a little bit about some of the severe weather that we encountered recently, specifically about 2 specific events. As you can see here, on May 16th, we had a derecho, and I apologize if I pronounced that wrong, in which a very severe thunderstorm came through with high winds. We did get some damage on campus to our tree and canopies. The primary damage we got was to the Technology Bridge 3 at our Technology Bridge campus. It pretty much completely destroyed the roof. And then, of course, in doing so, allowed for water access to the building, and it had for significant flooding. So I am happy to report here, it talks about that the build back is underway. We've actually just completed it as of this week, and the building is back up and running interior. Now, we still do have a temporary roof on the building, and we are working with the insurance company, as I think Raymond mentioned a moment ago, for the permanent replacement. Last but not least, Hurricane Beryl came through on July 8th. It caused significant damage to the campus on top of the previous event. Really did a lot of damage to our campus, mostly to the tree canopies. A lot of little small issues. The big issue, as you can see here, is the roof of our architecture building was completely destroyed on one end of the building. That is actually a standing seam copper roof. It was very unique to this campus, which we are now in the process of replacing. We have a temporary roof on it, and we have started the build back of the campus, or excuse me, build back of the interior. Of interest, and something that relates to what we spoke about last time, was that we did lose power to 20 buildings on the campus for approximately 2 days that are serviced directly from the CenterPoint's local grid. Our interior microgrid, where we support the campus, the majority of the central part of the campus was unaffected. So it showed the difference between the reliability of both systems. So ultimately, we are on progress, we are on track to put the building back into service sometime around the mid-fall, probably in the late October, November timeframe, with the build back of interior. And then we will, of course, work to get the permanent roof on at a later date. So that is my report. Again, is there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Oliver? This item is presented for information only and no committee action is required. Thank you, Mr. Oliver.
Thank you, sir.
Following the committee's approval of the last action item addressed, I would now like to request that 6 action items considered by the committee be placed on the board's consent docket agenda for the final board meeting. May I hear a motion to place 6 items on the board's consent docket agenda? Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Hearing no opposition, these 6 items unanimously approved by the committee will be placed on the board's consent docket agenda for final approval at the Board of Regents meeting tomorrow, August 22nd, 2024. Section 2, the executive session is the next item listed on your agenda. It should be noted that an executive session will not be held today. Does anyone have any additional questions or further comments? If not, there being no further business to come before this committee, this meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I think that is it for today. Is there anything that we can do that we were doing tomorrow today? No. Okay. What time are we positive? What do you think we start the retreat at 1 or 2?
We start the board meeting at 10. I don't think it'll take more than a couple of hours, and then we posted at 1, but we can do it as soon after as we want.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much for being here today, and we look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow.
And we expect the retreat to be a couple of hours at the most.
Okay.
Pardon me?
I need more time for it.
More than 2 hours?
Whatever.
Whatever.
We've blocked out whatever we need to do, we'll do. We're on no schedule tomorrow afternoon.
That's fine.
I need 4 hours tomorrow. Cutting me to 2 hours.